People often think that love stories begin with an intense moment, a gaze locking across a crowd, a fateful bump, or a phrase that makes the heart skip a beat. But my story with Isaiah started very quietly. So quietly that if I hadn't paid enough attention, I might have missed it, like missing a faint background tune playing in a crowded cafe. It was sophomore year of college, an early fall afternoon on campus. The California sky was gently sunny, the wind carrying the scent of dry leaves and roasted coffee from the small shop next to the library. Wesley, was sitting on the steps in front of the social sciences building, earbuds in but no music playing, just pretending to listen to something to avoid the world around me. Isaiah sat down next to me because there were no other spots. "Sorry," he said, his American voice deep with a slight rasp, like someone who'd stayed up late. "I didn't mean to invade your personal space." I removed one earbud and glanced over. Isaiah had dark brown hair slightly tousled, the kind that's unintentional but still fits perfectly. He wore a gray hoodie, old jeans, backpack loosely at his feet. Nothing too standout, but his eyes were deep and still, as if he observed the world at a different rhythm. "It's fine," I replied. "This spot is public anyway." We sat next to each other, saying nothing more. I thought that would be the entire interaction between two strangers, a small moment dissolving into the passing crowd of students. But Isaiah stayed. He didn't get up, didn't put on headphones. He just sat there, flipping through a thick book, occasionally jotting notes with a pencil. I noticed his hands, long, veined, with a smudge of blue ink on his index finger. I don't know why I noticed that. Just that from that moment, my mind started drifting away from my usual thoughts. "What are you studying?" Isaiah asked, not looking at me, as if the question was just part of the air. "Linguistics," I answered. "You?" "Psychology." He smiled faintly. "Sounds cliché, I know." "I think it suits you," I said, then realized I'd said too much. "I mean, you seem like someone who observes a lot." Isaiah turned to look at me for the first time, really long. Not probing but open, as if he was granting me permission to step into his world, even just a little. "You too," he said, "but you pretend not to." We both laughed. A small laugh, enough to break the thick silence between two strangers. From that day, Isaiah started appearing in my very ordinary moments. The library in the evenings, when we'd both sit in the corner far from the window. The student cafeteria with its cold white fluorescent lights, where he'd always pick the simplest dish. Walks around campus after class, chatting about random things, from boring lectures to why someone could love a city just for its sky. We never named our relationship. Isaiah didn't ask if I had a girlfriend. I didn't ask about his exes. There was an unspoken agreement. Let things unfold slowly, like water seeping into soil. But some things were very present without being said. Like how Isaiah sat closer to me when watching movies in the dorm common room. Like how his knee touched mine and didn't pull away. Like how my heart beat faster every time he leaned in to whisper a silly comment in my ear, his breath warm and close enough to make me hold mine. I knew I was stepping into dangerous territory. I knew because I'd been there before. Liked another guy, stayed silent, convinced myself the feelings would pass. But Isaiah was different. He had an unshowy gentleness, a kind of patience that made me want to linger in my own emotions instead of running from them. One night, we sat on the grass behind the library, watching the sky darken. Isaiah lay on his back, hands behind his head. I sat beside him, knees drawn up, hugging them. "Wes," he called, using my nickname for the first time. "Do you ever think that some relationships don't need to be loud to be important?" I didn't answer right away. I looked at the sky, where a few stars twinkled faintly amid the city lights. "I think," I said slowly, "those are the ones that last the longest." Isaiah turned his head to look at me. In that moment, it felt like the world had shrunk to just us and the fragile space between our breaths. I didn't know then that our story wouldn't end in a grand tragedy. But I also didn't know that sometimes, a gentle ending carries more weight than any pain. If someone asked when I started realizing I loved Isaiah, I couldn't give a specific date. No clear timeline, no aha, this is it moment. That feeling was like an afternoon stretching longer than usual, the light slowly changing color, shadows shifting subtly, until you realize the sky is about to darken. Isaiah became a habit. He appeared in short midnight texts, "You up?" and early mornings when I'd see him at the familiar cafe before class, Americano black, no sugar, no milk. Isaiah always drank his coffee bitter. I once asked why and he just shrugged. "Got used to it," he said. Besides, some things don't need to be softened. That phrase stuck in my head longer than necessary. We started studying together more. Isaiah would sit across from me in the library, legs stretched out, one earbud in but no music, a habit he copied from me, then laughed and said it was to avoid distractions. Sometimes, I'd catch his eyes on me over the edge of his book. Not sneaking, but direct, calm, as if looking at me was completely natural. Once, I asked outright, "What are you looking at?" Isaiah didn't evade. "I'm wondering what you're thinking." "About my essay." I lied, though my mind had nothing but his name. He smiled crookedly. "You're not good at lying, Wes." I didn't argue. Some people see through you so easily that hiding becomes pointless. Evenings in the dorm, we'd claim a corner of the old sofa in the common room. The TV screen played movies neither of us really followed. I remember one time clearly. When the scene went dark, Isaiah unconsciously rested his head on my shoulder. My body tensed for a second, familiar defensive instinct, then slowly relaxed. He didn't pull away. Neither did I. The distance between us was thin enough that I could feel Isaiah's breathing, even and slow. His familiar shampoo scent, woody, warm, made my heart skip. I thought about turning, about saying something, about 100 possibilities. But in the end, I chose silence. And in that silence, there was something very intimate. Isaiah was the one who touched me first. A light touch on my wrist when he wanted my attention. A hand on my back to steer me away from bumping someone in a crowded hallway. Brief touches, enough to make me aware of my own body. I started wondering if he felt what I felt. If Isaiah lay awake at night like me, thinking about a vague future where we didn't have to guess at every glance, every pause. One Friday night, we escaped the dorm, driving to the outskirts. Isaiah said he needed different air. We parked in an empty lot overlooking the highway, where car lights streaked long trails. Isaiah sat on the hood, me beside. The night wind was colder than I thought, and before I could react, he draped his jacket over my shoulders. "You always forget a warm jacket," he said. "I'm used to it," I replied, then realized I was echoing his coffee line. Isaiah looked at me, eyes softening. "You don't have to get used to everything alone." That hit me harder than any confession. I turned away, staring at the distant traffic, trying to swallow the feeling rising in my chest. "Isaiah," I said lowly, "do you ever fear? If you say something, everything will change?" He was silent for a long time. The wind picked up, rustling the jacket on my shoulders. "I think," he said finally, "what's scarier is pretending you feel nothing at all." I turned back to him. The distance between our faces was close enough to see every speck of light in Isaiah's eyes. My heart pounded so hard I feared he could hear it. But we still didn't kiss. No more touches. Just sat there side by side. And I began to understand that some love stories don't rush to climax. They choose to build emotion slowly so that when they reach the crucial point, everything is too deep to turn back. After that night, things between Isaiah and me didn't change in the way people expect. We didn't officially say anything. No first kiss, no confirmation. But there was a subtle shift, like adjusting your pillow angle slightly, but enough to make your body feel entirely different. Isaiah started calling me more. He said he liked hearing my voice, especially when I hesitated, searching for words. "It sounds real," he said, "like you're right here," and I believed him. Those calls often stretched into the late night, when the dorm was quiet, only the hum of the AC. We talked about everything. Childhoods in different states, dreams that might not materialize, even private fears I normally shared with no one. "I'm afraid I'll live a proper life but not a happy one," Isaiah said in one call. His voice quieted. "I'm afraid I won't have the courage to choose what I really want," I replied. There was a pause between those sentences. Pause of understanding. We started staying over at each other's places, of course. Isaiah would bring his laptop to my room, claiming his Wi-Fi was slow. He'd sit on my bed, back against the wall, legs stretched. I'd sit on the floor, back against the bed, separated by just a thin mattress. One night, while I was focused on reading notes, Isaiah suddenly asked, "Wes, do you ever feel like you're living the life others expect?" I didn't turn, just stared at the screen. "Most of the time. Do you get tired?" "I'm used to it," I replied reflexively, then paused. "But that doesn't mean I'm not tired." Isaiah said nothing more. I heard him shift, then a hand lightly on my hair. My body tensed, then relaxed. I closed my eyes, though there was no reason to. We stayed like that for a long time. I knew, in that moment, the friend's boundary had become so thin it was almost meaningless. But we both kept it intact like clear glass, seeing the other side clearly, but no one daring to touch hard. The real change came on a very ordinary day. It was an afternoon after class, overcast, signaling a rare rain. Isaiah picked me up outside the lecture hall, his face tense. He didn't smile like usual. "Can we walk a bit?" he asked. We circled the campus, familiar paths. I waited for him to speak, but Isaiah was silent. When the rain started drizzling, he stopped under a large tree. "What's wrong?" I asked, heart quickening. Isaiah took a deep breath. "I just talked to my academic advisor. Yeah, I have a chance to join a research program. 1 year. On the East Coast." I felt like someone had gently tugged a string in my chest. "When?" I asked, trying to sound normal. "End of this semester." We stood there, rain falling harder. I didn't know what to say. I wanted to congratulate him because it was a good opportunity, really good. But at the same time, I realized something was slipping from my grasp. "I haven't replied yet," Isaiah continued, voice low. "I don't know if I should go." I turned to look at him. "Isaiah, that's your future." "What about you?" he asked, eyes searching. "Aren't you part of my future?" That question hung between us, heavy enough to nearly stop my breath. I wanted to say yes, wanted to say I'm here, but I also knew I couldn't hold him back just for my own fear. "I think," I said slowly, "we shouldn't be the reason the other misses something important." Isaiah looked at me for a long time. Then he nodded, as if he'd anticipated the answer. "You're always right," he said, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. We kept walking in the rain, shoulders brushing. No umbrella. Rain soaked our clothes, chilling gradually. After that conversation, a new silence appeared between Isaiah and me. Not cold distance, but the kind where both are acutely aware of what's coming, yet neither has the courage to touch it. Like standing before a door, hand on the knob, but hesitating to turn. Isaiah was still there, sitting next to me in the library, calling every night, coming to my room with familiar excuses. But something in his eyes changed. No longer completely carefree. Every look seemed to carry an unspoken question. Me too. I started noticing smaller details than before. How Isaiah furrowed his brow when focused. How he tapped his fingers on the table when stressed. How he smiled softly when I said something a bit silly. Just for me. And I was afraid. Not of love. I passed that stage. I was afraid of the end. Afraid that no matter how far we went in emotions, we'd still stand on opposite sides of an unavoidable decision. One night, Isaiah invited me to a small psych department party. I don't like parties, but he said he needed me there. Just that. The room was cramped. Music just loud enough to cover disjointed conversations. Isaiah stood by me most of the time, occasionally introducing me to friends. "This is Wesley," he said, voice with a pride I didn't dare overinterpret. Someone joked, "What are you two to each other?" Isaiah looked at me before answering. Just a second, but I saw the hesitation. "Friends," he said. "Close friends." That word sounded very safe. And very painful. I drank more than usual. Enough to loosen my usual control. I stepped out to the balcony for air, night wind cooling my head a bit. Isaiah followed, closing the door behind. "You okay?" he asked. "I'm fine," I replied, then exhaled. Maybe not entirely. Isaiah stood facing me, closer than normal. Light from inside cast his face half bright, half shadow. Wes, he said slowly, I'm not good at this in-between stuff. My heart pounded. What do you mean? I don't want to pretend there's nothing between us, Isaiah said. His voice didn't tremble, but I heard the tension in every word. But I also don't want to pull you into something I might not be able to stay for. I laughed softly, not happily. You think I don't know that? Isaiah stepped closer. We were so near I could see the tiny flecks of light in his eyes. So why are you still here? That question pierced me. I didn't evade anymore. Because I like you, I said. Maybe love. And I know if I walk away now, I'll regret it. Isaiah inhaled deeply. For a moment I thought he'd touch me. But instead, he just nodded slightly, as if confirming something very important. Me too, he said. I just don't know what we should do with it. We didn't kiss that night. Not for lack of courage, but because we both understood. If we started, it would be hard to stop. And when we had to stop, it would hurt so much more. The weeks after passed faster than I expected. Isaiah applied for the research program. I helped edit his essay, reading every sentence, every paragraph, knowing each revision was a step farther from me. The day he got the acceptance email, Isaiah didn't say anything right away. He came to my room, sat on the bed, hands clasped. I got in, he said. I nodded. Congrats. He looked at me. Long. I'm not sure if I'm happy about it. I sat beside him. This time I initiated touch on Isaiah's hand. He didn't pull away. Our fingers intertwined, a simple handhold. Some choices are right, I said softly, but don't make you happy immediately. Isaiah leaned his forehead against mine. Our breaths mingled. I closed my eyes, allowing myself to be in that moment, not thinking of the future, not thinking of parting. I didn't know then that this unnoisy intimacy would become the foundation for everything that followed. That our love wouldn't be measured by what happened, but by how we faced an ending gradually taking shape. From the day Isaiah officially accepted the research program, time suddenly became finite in a very specific way. Everything had a deadline. Final assignments, last presentations, and even those last evenings we didn't dare name. We didn't talk much about him leaving. Not avoidance, but because we both understood it better than any explanation. Instead, we lived closer together, as if wanting to memorize every small version of each other, in case memory betrayed us one day. Isaiah started sleeping over in my room more often. Nothing beyond unspoken boundaries. A bed, clothes on, distance just enough for no pretense. He'd lie with his back to me. I'd lie on my back staring at the ceiling, listening to Isaiah's breathing even out as he fell asleep. Some nights I'd turn, watching him long. Hallway light seeped through the door crack, enough to see his nose bridge, lashes casting shadows. I wanted to touch, wanted to know how it would feel if I allowed one more step. But I didn't. I feared once touched, I wouldn't be sane enough to let go at the right time. One time, as we lay parallel like that, Isaiah spoke, voice raspy with sleep. You awake? Yeah. Do you think, if things were different, what we could have been? I was silent a while. I think if things were different, we'd still be us. Just in different circumstances. Isaiah chuckled softly. You always say things that make me not know if I should feel comforted or sadder. Maybe both, I replied. He turned, facing me. In the dark, Isaiah's eyes reflected faint light. Wes, I'm afraid one day I'll forget this feeling. What feeling? The feeling of being with someone without needing to prove anything. That touched me deeper than expected. I reached out, this time not stopping. I placed my hand lightly on his wrist. Isaiah took my hand, pulled it close, placed it on his chest. Isaiah's heart beat steady, strong. A very real pulse under my palm. You won't forget, I said softly. Some feelings, once had, don't go away. We lay like that until morning. The last days of the semester passed in a suspended state. I helped Isaiah pack gradually, each item into a cardboard box like a small marker of parting. Jacket, books, quick printed phone photos. I didn't ask what he'd take, what he'd leave. I feared the answer. One afternoon, as we taped the last box, Isaiah suddenly stopped. "Wes," he said, "can you see me off?" The question simple, but I had to breathe deep to answer. "Of course." Isaiah nodded, then bent back to work, as if afraid one more second looking at me would break everything. That night, we didn't go out. No studying. No movies. We just sat on my room floor, backs against the bed, sharing a cold pizza box. Isaiah ate slowly. I knew he was stretching time. "What are your plans for next year?" he asked. "I'll stay here," I said. "Finish my thesis. Maybe an internship." Isaiah nodded. "You fit this place." "And you?" I said, looking straight at him. "You fit many places." Isaiah looked at me, eyes softening. "But some places, not because I fit, but because I want to stay." We looked at each other long. This time, no one looked away. Isaiah leaned in first. So did I. When our lips met, everything happened slowly, as if both wanted to remember every second. The kiss wasn't rushed, not passionate. Just a gentle confirmation of all we'd kept inside. When we parted, foreheads still touching. I closed my eyes. "I wish things were simpler," Isaiah whispered. "But if simpler," I replied, "maybe it wouldn't mean as much." We kissed again, but still slow enough not to hurt the future waiting ahead. I knew in that moment we were stepping very close to the end. But I also knew some stories don't need to drag on to be complete. They just need to be lived fully, even in a limited time. The day Isaiah left came faster than I imagined. Not because time flew, but because I'd spent too much energy pretending it was still far. That morning, the sky was clear to the point of cruelty. No clouds, the kind of weather that makes you believe everything will be fine. We drove to the airport early. Isaiah in the passenger seat, head against the window, earbuds in but no music. I knew because the cord wasn't plugged in. He was pretending too, like me. The air in the car was thick with unsaid things. I focused on the road, afraid if I turned, I wouldn't keep the fragile calm I was trying to maintain. "Wes," Isaiah called, voice low. "Yeah, thanks for not making this harder." I pressed my lips. "I'm not sure that's always good." Isaiah chuckled softly. "It is for me." At the airport, everything followed the familiar rhythm of temporary goodbyes. Suitcase wheels rolling on floor, monotonous announcements, hasty hugs. We stood together at security, Isaiah's luggage between us like a visible barrier. "Did you check your passport again?" I asked, clinging to safe words. "3 times, Isaiah replied. "I think it's good." Isaiah pulled me closer a bit. "Wes, I don't know what the future holds, but I want you to know. This time isn't something I'll leave behind." I nodded. My throat tightened, but I didn't let tears fall. "Me too." We hugged one last time. A firm, slow hug, long enough for me to memorize the familiar feel, his heartbeat, the scent that had become part of my days. Then he let go, didn't turn back right away. But eventually, Isaiah pulled his suitcase, heading to the security line. Before disappearing, he turned to look at me. A very calm, very gentle look. And he was gone. The weeks after were a big void. Without Isaiah nearby, I realized how quietly he'd woven into my habits. I still sat at the old cafe, ordered the usual, but the opposite seat was always empty. I still went to the grass behind the library every evening, but the sky seemed wider, colder. We texted. Not much, but steady. Short messages about East Coast weather, the new lab, new people Isaiah met. I replied with small school stories, things that sounded very normal. We avoided talking about missing each other. Not because we didn't, but because we both knew. Once said, everything would become heavier than necessary. Some nights, I'd lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking of Isaiah. I'd think of our last kiss, how he said my name in the dark, and I'd wonder how long a story without promises could last. One evening, Isaiah called me. No warning. "Wes," he said as I picked up, his voice tired, but familiar. "I'm here. Do you believe some people aren't together, but still parallel?" I closed my eyes.
Ido.
I'm learning a lot, Isaiah continued, about myself, about what I want. And the strange thing is, the more I learn, the more I understand the feeling I had when with you. I didn't reply right away. I let him continue, let the pause between us do its work. I don't know what that means, Isaiah ended. I think, I said slowly, not everything needs a definition right away. Isaiah laughed lightly. You're still the same. The call ended, but the feeling didn't. I started realizing that even not in the same place, we were still in the same emotional rhythm, just from different shores. And for the first time since Isaiah left, I didn't see sadness as something to avoid. It became gentler, deeper, like a familiar background tune, reminding me that some relationships don't end with parting, but by learning to exist in a different form. The time after Isaiah left wasn't measured by days or weeks anymore, but by small changes in me. I started getting used to not checking my phone at every buzz, used to passing places tied to us without lingering longer than normal. Not because I forgot, but because I learned to carry those memories more lightly. Isaiah and I still kept in touch, but not as regularly as before. There were silences lasting days, then suddenly a short message. Saw a sky today like that library day. I always knew which day. I started focusing more on my thesis. The topic I chose was about language and silence, how people use gaps to convey what can't be said in words. My advisor commented it was a very personal approach. I just smiled. Some things don't need explaining. One late evening, when I was in the nearly empty library, my phone buzzed. Isaiah calling. I'm at the station, he said, wind blowing hard into the mic. Which station? I asked, heart quickening unnecessarily. Union Station, he replied. I have a few days off. I thought, I want to come back. I didn't ask back where. I knew the answer. Isaiah reappeared in my life as quietly as the first time. He stood outside the dorm, backpack on shoulder, face a bit thinner, but eyes the same, deep and still. We looked at each other a few seconds, then both smiled. No immediate hug. No running over. Just a peaceful acknowledgement that we were both still here. You look good, Isaiah said. You too, I replied. A bit more tired. Yeah, he smiled. But the worthwhile kind. We walked around campus, as if no geographical distance had ever wedged between. Isaiah told me about the research program, long lab nights, the feeling of living completely alone in a strange city for the first time. I've thought a lot, he said as we sat on the familiar steps in front of social sciences. About us. I nodded, not pushing. I wasn't afraid of conversations like that anymore. I realized, Isaiah continued, that I don't regret going, but I also don't regret having you in that time. Me too, I said. Maybe, he said slowly, we're not a story that lasts forever, but I think we're a right story that made me silent for a long time, not from sadness, but because it touched a truth I'd gradually accepted. Isaiah, I said finally, I don't need us to promise anything. I just need to know what we had was real. Isaiah smiled. That's enough. We didn't kiss this time. No need. Isaiah held my hand, very naturally, as if that's where our hands belonged from the start. We sat like that, watching students pass, hearing whine through the trees. The day Isaiah left the second time, I didn't go to the airport. We said goodbye at the train station. The hug shorter, but no less complete. Take care of yourself, Wes, Isaiah said. You too, I replied. The train rolled away. I stood there, watching until Isaiah disappeared. This time, I didn't feel pain, because I understood that some loves aren't defined by staying or leaving, but by how they end, not shattered, no resentment, just leaving a lingering warmth that lasts long after. And that, for me, is a gentle ending.